Ahoy Captains! Welcome back to more Skull and Bones content. Alright, today in this video we'll be crafting and upgrading the Sloop of War and building my Plague Doctor ship build, capable of easily decimating Peste and all the other bosses on the sea. Alright, let's get into it. Before we do, let's check out a small bit of gameplay before we Peste. Let's check out a small bit of gameplay before we get into it. See what this ship build has to offer. This ship excels at spreading toxins. Some say the Plague King himself breathes upon its sails, spreading pestilence in its wake. This ship favors a DPS playstyle, an aggressive playstyle, with perks such as Blightbringer. When attacking an enemy ship under the poison status effect, increase the poison status effect damage by 6% and the duration by 20%. For each consecutive hit, up to 30% damage and 100% duration. Each weapon hit has a chance to cause an explosion of 300 meters on a poison target, which deals 1,000 toxic damage to enemies, increases toxic weapon damage by 20%, and poison charge rate by 150%. Alright, once we've unlocked our Sloop of War in the Smuggler's Pass after 45 tiers, we can start building it here. Here are some of the items that we need to build and craft and fully upgrade the Sloop of War. Be able to build the Plague Doctor ship build. I'm just going to list these off here. I'm not going to read them off, but I think I forgot level 6 to 7. So I apologize about that. But go ahead and pause if you need to come back and see any of these items that you need to gather to upgrade the Sloop of War. Now that our ship is fully upgraded, now comes the fun part with the mad scramble for upgrade parts and ascending weapons and armor, and really just decking out our loadout. So let's get into it. On to my Plague Doctor ship build. Okay, for the weapon loadout, on the front we have the Procure III long guns, doing toxic and piercing damage. For our rolls, we rolled firepower, lethal, weak point damage, and deadly strike. Shots have a 10% chance of dealing increased damage from any damage to weak point bonuses, even if the shot does not hit a weak point. Increases damage to weak points by 44%. This has a total weak point damage of 336%. For the broadside weapon, we have the Blightbringer torpedo, a chaser weapon that leaves behind noxious trails and produces toxic clouds upon impact. Each charge is said to carry the volatile mix from the Peste himself. Contagion. When a projectile is armed, afflicts the target with gaseous status effect for 4 seconds. Each deals 300 poison damage per second to all enemies within 150 meters from the target. Effect can be stacked up to 8 times. Arming increases damage from torpedoes by 150% when target is beyond 85 meters. Flooding and toxic damage. For our rolls, we rolled rapid reload, reduces reload time by 10.1%. Amplified toxic, increases existing toxic damage by 33%. Amplified flooding, increases flooding damage by 33.3%. For our other broadside weapon, we have Blightbringer torpedoes again. For our rolls on this weapon, we rolled noxious, adds 10.7 to toxic damage. Amplified flooding adds 32.6 to flooding, and amplified toxic adds 33.1 to toxic. On the rear, we have the Rot Mouth, a cursed weapon that reduces brace strength upon impact and deals extra damage to poison targets. Each bark is a pestilent cough from the Plague King's maw. Virulent. 50% of poison damage reduces maximum brace strength for 10 seconds if the target is poisoned. Poison damage is increased by 75%. For the rolls, we rolled noxious, adds 10.8% to toxic damage. Amplified toxic adds 31.9% to toxic damage, and soul mending. For the auxiliary weapon, we have the flow warner. Launches putrid projectiles, releasing fumes that damage targets and drain crew stamina. Putrefying. Releases toxic fumes for a short period upon impact, sapping the target's crew stamina based on 1% of the toxic damage dealt. Toxic 3 and blast. For the rolls, we rolled noxious, adds 11.1% toxic damage. Amplified toxic, increases toxic damage by 35.7%, and another amplified toxic for another 35.9% toxic damage. Huge toxic damage for this weapon and ship. Let's check out the furniture we've set up for this ship. Alright, so the first thing we have is Stink Pot Station. Hits with the toxic weapon on a target within 250 meters, deals 10% more damage if they're bracing. Poison status effect applied to targets within 250 meters, deals 10% increased damage, increases toxic damage to enemy ships by 8%. Blightbringer's Ward, a specialized station that reeks of chemicals and forbidden alchemy. Reduces reload time of toxic weapons by 7% and increases damage of toxic weapons by 4%. Tuning Station, a furnace station that hones the tubing of torpedoes, increasing their lethality and speed. Increases secondary damage of torpedo by 20%. Increases projectile speed of torpedo by 13%, restores 10% of crew stamina per second while out of combat. Potent Schematics highlights the structural vulnerabilities of Potents. Increases damage to weak points of enemy ships by 10%. Weapon hits ignore 10% of the target's toxic resistance. UBAC Tuning Rack. Specialized equipment seized from the wrecks of UBAC twin warships. Increases maximum range of torpedoes by 14%. Reduces arming distance for torpedo weapons by 25%. Increases projectile speed of torpedo by 10%. And last up for the furniture, we have Torpedo Works. Increases secondary damage of torpedo by 19%. Onto my armor. This is the armor I like to use when facing the Peste, primarily. For its toxic resistance, I have it up to 55% on this with my rolls. I also rolled hull health by 8.7% and maintenance restores 185 hull health per second. So this is really good for taking home the Peste. I do like to have another armor here that I like to take on for all the other bosses. For my rolls for the Buccaneers Oath, I rolled Stout, increases hull health, maintenance, and craftsman. Increases repair amount of my repair kits. Alright, that pretty much does it for my ship build. If you'd like to check out these cosmetics, here's the list of my cosmetics I used for this build. So as you can see here, so easy to take on the Peste with this Plague Doctor build I have for you here. You can just hang out in his green plague fog and not get damaged. You can actually see his weak points to hit them. I believe at some point I even ram the Peste and do a crew attack and have enough time to get away from him and still stay alive. And it's been so long. Here's a little clip of the story of Peste from Year 1, Season 1. So here you go. Here's a little clip. Check it out.
Caribbean, there's a tale of a man who had nothing but desired everything. A skilled sailor, he made the sea submit to his call, growing in power and riches. But all men must die. Driven by the fear of losing it all, he hunted down shamans to cheat death itself. When they refused him, He burned their cities to the ground. With their dying breaths, the shamans cursed him with a rotten plague. In his rage, he nailed their corpses to his ship as a warning to all. Now, he carries his plague to the Indian Ocean, chasing after the whispers of a cure and a pirate empire ripe for the taking. So despair, Captain, for Philip La Peste comes, bringing with him an all-consuming tide of terror. His flag will spell your doom.
So after you fight La Peste and you go to dock the Dutchman's camp, check out this megalistari that had washed up on shore after a bad battle. It looks all decrepit and decomposing. Looks pretty awesome. Makes me wonder what else they've added to the game. But these small touches are a really nice addition. Thank you again, Skull and Bones team, for a great job. And yeah, this thing is just so cool. You can see it here from your ship. Check it out there. And you can also go check it out from the camp from the other side, I think. It looks awesome from the ship, and it also looks really cool running up the hill here. All you can see is that fin sticking up from the landscape, and then, there it is. Full thing, all washed up, all dead, but really cool. But I thought I'd share that with you guys. Thought that was awesome. Alright, that's going to about do it for this Skull and Bones video. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and watching this. If you like this video, please do drop a like. Please subscribe. It'll really help out the support of my channel. And yeah, I'll see you out on the high seas. Thanks for watching.